Yes, we're finally here. The X Plus Gigantic Series. Yes, my favorite roster of figures from X Plus. Let's count them down, shall we? First came the evil brutality that is the gigantic GMK Godzilla. Then the second entry, the big, intense rage that is the gigantic burning Godzilla. On to number 3, the gigantic of a new millennium, the gigantic series, Yuji Sakai, Godzilla 2000. And now, without further ado, after months and months of eager anticipation, ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the newest addition to the X Plus Gigantic Series, 1962's from King Kong vs. Godzilla, the KingGoji. Let's go!
Yeah! 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 Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? What? Yeah!
What is going on, people? LP 2000 right back at you with another figure review, and today I'm doing, you know what time it is? You know exactly what time it is, you know what I'm saying? First of all, thank y'all for being here, but of course I'm doing the X Plus Gigantic Series, Godzilla 1962 from King Kong versus Godzilla. And patience, you're gonna see the big guy in a few seconds, but you know how we do things around here, so let's get into the box before we get into the figure. I did want to put both on the same on the table at the same time, so we're just gonna do the box first and then do the figure. So here is the box. About time we get back to this, right? I know I've been saying that for a while on Facebook, but you know, considering the last Gigantic Series figure that we had, the Gigantic 2000, you know, it didn't have this type of box. It had like it was basically like an oversized 30cm box, you know, with the colorful artwork or whatever. But now, since this new gigantic is along the size of the gigantic burning Godzilla and the GMK Godzilla, you know, we get this basically simplistic art with the silhouette of Godzilla in the front right here. Gigantic Series, Godzilla 1962. I have the standard. I'm gonna have the red board with the blue fans, but I'm totally fine with the standard. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, this is really. I'm glad that we going back to this. You know what I mean? We getting other Gigantic Series figures down the line in a few months from now. I will touch on that later on. But yeah, just expect more boxes like this. But this is great. It really is great. With the lid or drawing on the back, and no, I can't throw it. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to damage anything in here. So, plus I'm gonna keep this box anyway. So let's just set it down and let's get into the man of the hour. I know you've been waiting for him. Here he is, the Gigantic Series. Finally, he's here. The Gigantic Series 1962 Godzilla, the KingGoji from King Kong vs. Godzilla. Woo! Lord have mercy. Oh my God, this is so wonderful. Amazing, so great. Oh my God. Before I get up close and personal with this thing, I guess let me just talk about the backstory about this figure and all that good stuff. And I'm gonna start back in 2014 when the gigantic burning Godzilla was released. It was at that point where we thought that the next Gigantic Series figure was going to be a shower, since the first Gigantic was a GMK Millennium. Obviously, the Burning Godzilla was Heisei, so we thought, us collectors thought that the next Gigantic Series figure would be a figure from the Showa era. We thought it would be the 54 or the 62 or the 64. Pretty much any candidate for the Showa series would have been a great candidate for a Gigantic Series figure. Matter of fact, any Godzilla figure would be a great candidate for a Gigantic Series. But at least in my mind, I thought we were going to get at least a 62, a 54, or a 64. But a year and some change later, I think about around a year later, they came out with the Gigantic Series 2000. Nothing wrong with that. It's a great figure. It's great. It really is great. Then early this year, 2015, and I think at a show in Japan, I forgot what show it was. It was showcasing model kits or whatever. I think it's Super Festival, whatever. They show a picture. They teased that the next Gigantic Series figure from X Plus was going to be the Gigantic 1954, which had me really so excited. Some folks, not really. But I love the Gigantic Series. You know that about me. This is my favorite series of figures from X Plus. So I'm down with any Gigantic figure. But some folks weren't in that on that same program. So they teased that it's going to be the next Gigantic Series figure. It's going to be coming out like around June of this year. And like a month or so, we didn't hear anything about it. Then one time, I think one day, they showed a silhouette of this sculpt. So we knew, the fans, the Godzilla fans, we know Godzilla images when we see it. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to see the whole image, but we pretty much can tell which Godzilla suit is associated with said image. And they showed an image, a silhouette image of this Godzilla, and we knew it was a 62. But in my mind, I'm thinking they wouldn't reissue a third centimeter, because we already had like one that got reissued like sometime before. And I don't think they will reissue a 25 centimeter, considering that figure is not really the best in the world. So I didn't really see X Plus bringing out another one. So in my mind, I'm thinking it had to be a Gigantic Series. It had to be a Gigantic Series figure. And after speculation, after whatever, it turned out that I was right. And they announced that the Gigantic 62 was going to be the next Gigantic Series figure. Kind of like a bait and switch, which kind of made people a lot happy, because, to be honest, arguably the 62 is maybe more favorable amongst the fan base than the 54 or whatever. It's very popular. It's very iconic, considering the fact that it's from the film where it's the most financially successful film and arguably the most popular film in the Godzilla franchise, King Kong vs. Godzilla. So when they announced this was coming out, a lot of people were happy, you know what I mean, including myself. This figure release is probably, it's not probably, it is my most anticipated figure release of the year from X Plus, considering the stuff that we got so far, considering the stuff that we got coming. Whether it's Legion, Mechagodzilla 1975, Bactra, the Sakai GMK, Godzilla 2014, Gamma vs. Baragon reissue set, the Gigantic Series 54 that's coming out. But this was the one that I personally was looking forward to the most. And it's like, I'm just amazed now that it's finally here after all this months of waiting of a Gigantic Series figure, something bigger along the lines of what the Gigantic Series is supposed to be. Nothing against the Gigantic 2000, but it's the smaller of the Gigantics. You know what I'm saying? And I want something to be along the size of the Gigantic Burning Godzilla, which is basically what it is. It's maybe a look like a hair shorter, but still it's big, it's bulky, it's just like the Gigantic Series Burning Godzilla, and I really do enjoy that. And it made a lot of people go crazy, you know what I'm saying? It has made a lot of people happy. Up until the time where it's released. Around the time of recording, they just gotten around to releasing these, both standards and Ricks, like around a week ago. Today is the July 8th. Yeah, July 8th, I believe. So they got around to releasing these like just this past week, and probably in next week and the week after that, or whatever. So this is the time where they start releasing them. And there have been multiple reports, unfortunately, of people having figures that are damaged, whether they had like, I believe one report had like his hand here was like deflated. His tail was like deflated here in certain areas or whatever. That's the most I've seen as far as like the damage that this figure suffered from. Maybe it's the heat, or maybe something happened from being shipped from Japan to here, whatever. But some people, and it's not just one or two cases, there's like multiple cases of people having their figures damaged at random, and that sucks, you know what I mean? And hopefully X Plus and whoever that the people order their figures from will rectify that. But other than that, this figure is really, really, really great. You know what I mean? It's very, 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 very awesome. So basically, that's the elongated backstory of the Gigantic 62 and why and how he has come to be here after all this time. And you know what I'm saying? It was well worth the wait. It really, really was. I'm still speechless about the fact that it's here. You know what I mean? It's really is an amazing piece. So let's get up close and personal and let's see why this is such a beautiful piece. All right, let's go. Okay, folks, here we are up close and personal with the Gigantic Series Godzilla 1962. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna showcase some figures along with it. Cause I'm having trouble at the present time. I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna put this guy. You know what I mean? It's not like I have lack of space, because I don't. But I'm trying to figure out what would I put with this guy. So for the time being, I'm gonna put up this 30 centimeter X Plus Godzilla 1962, and so you can see the differences between the suits. So hopefully they'll be in the frame here. As you can see, both 62s are amazing. Like I said, I don't have the 25 centimeter. I'm not really feeling that. So I think these two are the superior sculpts when it comes to X Plus. I mean, of course, you know, this is going to take your attention. But like I said, this is just for sculpt and paint comparisons when I get around to that point. But as far as like the Gigantic Series, this is amazing. You got little paint blotches here. I guess to simulate, you know, him fighting the dirt with Kong or whatever. This is such a glorious piece. Oh my God. He stands at least, I think, 17 inches tall, you know, whatever. They really spared no expense when it comes to this figure. I know that Richard Iso, David Abdopko, John Bumpus, Dale Champagne Martinez, Kai Yount, you know, they went to Japan, for a pleasure trip last year, and they had the privilege of seeing this thing actually sculpted and made at that time, you know, whatever. Of course, they couldn't really say anything about that, and that's understandable. But I just only imagine what they went through actually seeing this piece being constructed. Now that it's here, it really, really is great. One thing about this piece, besides the paint scheme, is really, really awesome. The selling point for me, hold on, shorty. Let's try and, yeah, there you go. One thing about, no, I'll put you down. You'll go back up later. One thing about this piece I enjoy so much is the pose. It's the sculpt. You know what I mean? And although it's arguable about the Gigantic Burning Godzilla, you know my thoughts about that. When it comes to suit accuracy, of course the GMK stylized, the Yuji Sakai G2000 is based off of maquette, so it's not really suit accurate, so that's stylized. The Gigantic Burning Godzilla, like I mentioned before, I don't think that suit is stylized to a point. It's more so suit accurate in my opinion. Maybe the only thing that's stylized on the suit, on that figure, is fat. Maybe the arm is too small. But as far as like this Gigantic 62, this is absolutely perfect from the face. Oh my God, look at that. That is just amazing. That's one thing about this figure, about this suit. My wife likes the suit from the side, but from the front, you know, just like how it was in the movie, you know, he had that, you know, that goofy look from the front. But from the side and just from every angle that you look at this figure, it really, really is amazing. And it looks like I said, the actual suit. It looks like, you know, Haru Nakajima in the suit. Like, and that's great because, you know, they don't go for the monster look per se. They go for the man inside the suit, which I really, really do enjoy that. The dorsal plates, oh my God, popping. You know what I mean? The color scheme is really, really, really great. You know, and I like the tail. The tail is not like sticking outwards like the other Gigantic Series figures. in a way, it's curving back in. It's just like his tail looks like he's about to ready to strike, because he did use that tail a lot as a whipping weapon on Kong in the film. Just oh my god, just the paint scheme and the overall sculpt of this guy is just amazing. The claws are painted really well, as well as his toes, whatever. To me, it looks like he just like emerged from the iceberg. In my opinion, one of the best Godzilla scenes ever in the Godzilla film, when he breaks out of the iceberg and lets out that earth-shattering roar. Really, really good. Also about the dorsal plates, that's one thing I love about the dorsal plates too. They really captured the dorsal plates because you see how they are positioned here. You know what I mean? Of course, they are very suit accurate. But as you can see, this dorsal plate right here is bent towards this direction, and this one's kind of bent towards this direction, and vice versa. And that is basically to simulate, you know how, when Godzilla moves, the dorsal plates on his body are somewhat loose appendages. So whenever he moves, they always are like dangling back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Not dangling to the point where they're gonna fall off, but they're dangling back and forth. So I like how they created that imagery into the sculpt by having the dorsal plates positioned in different areas, not areas, but like in different positions, to give off the effect that his dorsal plates are like shifting as he moves his upper body. I really do enjoy that. That really, really is great. And also, I think somebody pointed out, I think they went as far, hopefully we can get into focus here, but let's see if I can find it. There it is, right there. They went as far as to create the seam line of when Haru Nakajima entered into the suit. Maybe you can see it right here. There you go. It's going up. Kind of disappears a little bit. But yeah, right there. Hope I can point to it. There it is. Right there. Oh my God. Woo! Yes. The great, oh my God, this is so awesome. I'm so excited to finally have this. You know what I mean? Even if I stop collecting, which I won't, but if I had to stop collecting with this piece, oh my God, I am so fulfilled. And I'm so happy that this guy is finally here. You know what I'm saying? And the 62 is one of my favorite Godzilla suits of all time. It just has that look of Godzilla. A definitive Godzilla, you know what I mean? Of course, you can argue that maybe it's kind of chunky in certain areas, but hey, the Heisei was chunky. But to me, it's not chunky to the point where he's like considered like fat or obese or grotesque to a point. He's sizable. He's well proportioned. You know what I'm saying? And that's good, because you don't want Godzilla to look like a noodle. You know what I'm saying? Real slim, or like he's anorexic. You want some size to him. And like I mentioned before, the head sculpt is very, 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 very good. I like that. From any angle you look at this figure, from above, from upwards like this, from the side like this, from the other side like this, or from the back, wherever angle you have this figure position, it is perfect. It is so perfect. You know what I mean? And also, like, the attention to detail, like here, like just the bends and the folds, like, in the suit. You know what I mean? Like I mentioned, it looks like Haru Nakajima is really in the suit. You know what I mean? This is by far, I mean, if there was a perfect gigantic, it would have to be this guy. It really would. As far as like who's my favorite gigantic, I don't know. We'll touch on that when I put the other gigantics with him. But for right now, oh my God, this is great. But let's go back to the size comparison right fast, or the 62 comparison. And as you can see, the different suit variations between both 62s or whatever. And don't get me wrong, don't sell this guy short by any means. The 30 centimeter 62 Godzilla, a fantastic sculpt, whatever. But the gigantic, my God, the size is just amazing. You know what I mean? You can't beat that. You know what I mean? So, what do you have? The gigantic or the 30? You can't go wrong with the 62. I'm finally glad. I'm happy that it's here. Really, really am. So, let's go to other more size comparisons. Probably like two more. Yeah, no, three. And we'll wrap this review up. All right. Let's go to size comparison number 2. Okay, folks. Here we are. Size comparison number 2. And of course, I have my most prized Godzilla figure in my collection, the M1 1964 Godzilla at 18 inches or 19 inches tall, right next to the KingGoji. And as you can see, a gigantic evolution when it came to the suits. So of course, 62 and 64. Of course, the dorsal plates are the same, as you can see right here. But of course, Godzilla got a little bit slimmer when it came to his underbody, as you can tell. The claws got a little bit sharper on the 64. He's more menacing in 64, obviously. But the 62, he's menacing to a certain extent, but he's like a playful menace, where he doesn't give up like a evil look, but you still can get behind him. Then again, you can also get behind the 64 too. So hopefully, anybody in S Plus Clips Facebook group that's watching this, S Plus Clips Facebook club, I gotta start saying that. If you're watching this, of course, a 64 gigantic would be the way to go. Don't y'all agree? Don't y'all agree? Okay. So yeah, that's it with size comparison with my most favorite Godzilla figure in my collection. And like I mentioned before, these are just figures that I'm thinking about putting this gigantic with. You know what I mean? Because I haven't decided how I'm going to position him. You know what I mean? Because I got my gigantic scattered all over the place. As you can see, scattered all over the room here. So I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put this. So maybe in the meantime while I'm doing this, maybe I can decide then. Or maybe you can put down in the comment section where do you think would be best for this gigantic 62 to be positioned with the 30 that you just saw or this gigantic 64. So let's go with size comparison number 3 and see how it stacks up with the other 3 gigantic series figures from X Plus. Okay folks, the gang is all here, and as you can see, the entire X Plus gigantic series here in full effect. You have the gigantic GMK, the gigantic G2000, Rick Boy, of course the gigantic Burning Godzilla, and of course you got the gigantic 62. And yeah, these look so awesome together. You know what I mean? The space to house these things, you're gonna need a lot of space, but it's great to finally have all these together. You know what I mean? And like I mentioned before, I'm not gonna put all these in the same place because I like to scatter my gigantics out, all over the place, so I can, try to have a gigantic like in each part of the room. You know what I mean? Because as you can see, I'm putting these on top of the gigantic 62 box just to have room for everything, because these are just so big, they're so massive. I thought that having just these 3 were just massive, but now the 62 adds more bulk and mass, and I enjoy every single bit of it. But they offer a different perspective, you know what I mean? So but yes, it's nice to finally have a Showa gigantic now, you know what I mean? And of course we're gonna have another Showa gigantic in a few months from now. As a matter of fact, we're gonna get another gigantic from Millennium too. So of course, if you don't know, they're going to reissue the gigantic GMK in a darker scheme with blue dorsal plates, kind of like how the gigantic 62 Rick has the blue dorsal plates. And we're getting the gigantic series Godzilla 1954. So we got 2. So whoever missed out on getting this one, you have a chance to get it now. And we get the 54 to make it 2 for the Showa series. You know what I mean? So, but even still, like I mentioned, these are great, and you know what? Everybody's gonna have an opinion about which figure is the best. Right now, since I have all four of them in front of me, I can't really tell which one's the best. They all look great. They're all different. They all have some kind of different contribution to make them, equally great amongst each other. You know what I mean? Whether it's the evil brutality, you know what I'm saying, the orange bright dorsal plates, or just the overall bulky orange patches and stuff for the Burning Godzilla, or just the show of goodness of the 62. They all offer different perspectives. And with that being said, that's why I love the gigantic series so much. This shot right here. So all 4 gigantics in full effect. So let's do it. One more size comparison. Actually, just one more creature that I'm going to I'm thinking about putting with the 62 Godzilla, and then I'll wrap up with my thoughts of King Kong versus Godzilla. And I'm also going to touch on the positive and negatives of them releasing so many wonderful figures on us at one time. So, all right, let's wrap this review up. Okay, I'm back with my thoughts of King Kong versus Godzilla to wrap up this X Plus Gigantic Series Godzilla 1962 review. And as you can see, I have a custom-made King Kong 1967 from King Kong Escapes, my favorite King Kong film of all time. And I thought it'd be apropos to pose this King Kong with this Godzilla. Now, I know it's not the Kong from the same movie as King Kong versus Godzilla. But this is my favorite version of Kong, and I think it works. And more so than that, it's portrayed by the same guy. You know what I mean? Haru Nakajima played King Kong in King Kong Escapes. And of course, he played Godzilla in King Kong vs. Godzilla. So it's kind of appropriate, you know what I mean? So I think he's the only man in history to play both King Kong and Godzilla. He's the man, Haru Nakajima. All right, so let's get into my thoughts of King Kong vs. Godzilla. I kind of covered that on my 30cm Godzilla 1962 Ripboard review. I won't rehash a lot of that, but I will say that I still maintain to this day that I wish that King Kong vs. Godzilla would have been taken a little bit more seriously. However, after re-examining the film now and gaining new, more found appreciation for it, you know what I mean, I can understand from Toho's perspective why they wanted to go in a more children-friendly direction with this film, as well as the majority of the Showa series. You know what I mean? Take into account to a fact, Godzilla's 54 and Godzilla Raised Again, you know what I mean? The whole purpose of them going into a lighthearted direction, because they wanted to broaden their audience. They wanted to appeal to children. You know what I mean? And, at the end of the day, Toho is a business. You know what I'm saying? And the object of the business is to make money so you can be profitable, so you can make more movies down the line. I can understand that. So they had to cater to children to try to broaden their audience. Because let's be honest, as, Godzilla 54 and Godzilla Raised Again, you know what I'm saying? Even though it featured monster action, especially the 55 film where you had a monster versus monster action, honestly, those films were not really made for children. They were very dark, serious, gritty films, more so 54 than the 55. But it's not exactly films that, that would cater to a lot of children. But this film was, you know what I mean? And so I can understand why they wanted to go into a children lighthearted, campy direction. From Toho's business perspective, you know what I mean? That was their end goal. However, Inoshiro Honda, who directed the film, felt like nothing for its comedy should be related to giant monsters, whatever. And I think there was like a clash on that. But ultimately, they won, or Toho won, because they wanted to have the series go into a lighthearted direction, and here we are. But I'm saying from my personal perspective, you know what I'm saying? I've seen what King Kong can do. I've seen what Godzilla can do. I've seen the 33 King Kong legendary film. I've seen the iconic classic Godzilla 54 film. And you would think when you put these two monsters on paper that it would have been a lot more than what we got. But at the same time, I think that's a mistake a lot of folks make. You know what I'm saying? We just have preconceptions about a film, and if it doesn't meet our expectations, we use that as fuel to not like it or just not give it its credit. And I don't want to do that anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, we all do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm no different. But I can understand from Toho's perspective that why they did what they did when it came to King Kong versus Godzilla. And of course, Kong is the star of the film. I mean, let's be honest about it. Kong is the star. Of course, they built up his appearance or whatever. And of course, they wanted King Kong to be the good guy. You know what I'm saying? That's why he had that somewhat of a playful look in the film. You know what I mean? He was more lighter brown or whatever. They want to make King Kong more acceptable to children versus more so than Godzilla, since Godzilla was the villain. And I'm sure when they made the deal, when Toho made the deal with RKO, because of course they had to pay for the rights to use King Kong in their film. I'm sure the meeting went like this. RKO was like, look, we'll let you have King Kong, but he has to win. I'm sure Toho was like, okay, all right, whatever. Then they go back to Japan and film it, and it was like, okay, he may win, but Godzilla's not going to be a punk because of it. You know what I mean? Godzilla, we're not going to have him beat down Godzilla like that. You know what I mean? So I think they did a great job, even though I'm not too favorable on some of the things they did in the film, as far as Kong and Godzilla being playful, as far as Godzilla doing that happy dance and Kong just doing, like, the one thing I didn't like about Kong in that film is the fact that when him and Godzilla meet for the first time, you know what I'm talking about. Godzilla's on this high plateau and Kong's like in a valley surrounded by trees, you know what I'm saying? And of course Godzilla like breathes fire and sets fire to the forest and basically sets fire to Kong a little bit. Kong just basically scratches his head, turns around and goes back. That's not something that King Kong would do, in my opinion, as far as the character. Maybe if they would have expanded on the scene where, if they would have showed Kong more trying to get the Godzilla, but he couldn't do it because the flames were just too much around him, and maybe they show him disappear, and then, it leads up to them fighting at the end, I'll probably be more fine with that, whatever. far as Godzilla doing the happy dance, Godzilla just comes across as a big, overgrown bully. But you know what? He's like a likable bully. You know what I mean? He gets the advantage of Kong. He's happy, or whatever. But I think that it's those are the elements that, even though I don't like it, it gives the film its charm. You know what I mean? And it's such a nostalgia film for me as it is. But I think they treated both monsters well. With the military campaigns to stop Godzilla, he goes through them. At least one campaign, he's not able to get to Tokyo. But yet, King Kong is able to get to Tokyo. He's able to do something that Godzilla was not able to do, and rampage his way through Tokyo with the power lines trying to stop him. But Kong just goes through it. But then at the end, when they fight, oh my God, they make up for it with that fight. You know what I mean? And Godzilla kind of gets the upper hand. And like I said, he comes across as a bully. But then he gets the upper hand. But then when Kong gets the upper hand, he backs off a little bit. But then when Kong gets his second win, they just tear into each other. It's one of the best Godzilla fight scenes or fight scenes ever in a film, especially a kaiju film. So they really made it work towards the end when they finally fight. Now, at the end, of course, we know what happens. They both fall into the water. An earthquake happens. I'm going by the American version. I mean, that's the thing. I like the American version, too, even though some scenes were very unnecessary. But I do like the American version. That's where I grew up on. I like the Japanese, but I like more so the American. And of course, the earthquake happens after the monsters fall into the water, and of course, King Kong emerges, and and basically, Toho really said it. They said that in the end, King Kong was announced officially as the winner. Wink, wink. I think they did that to really try to please RKO, because Toho really wanted to make another King Kong film. At this point, I don't know when, but I'm sure they would have loved to jump at the chance for making another King Kong film, which they did like 5 years later. With King Kong Escapes, but I'm sure they probably would have loved to make another King Kong film in the interim between King Kong vs. Godzilla and King Kong Escapes. But of course, they had to please RKO, and that's why they had Kong win. But the ending is very ambiguous, that you can really leave it to your own interpretation, despite what Toho said. You know what I mean? Like, we see Kong emerge from the water and swim away. We can take that as maybe Kong trying to run away from Godzilla's homeland. Godzilla disappeared. We didn't see Godzilla anymore. We didn't actually see Kong really beat down Godzilla, where Godzilla couldn't continue to fight. I mean, Godzilla, we know, can live underwater too, so maybe he went on his separate way as well. You know what I mean? The ending protected both monsters. That's what I'm trying to say, and I love that. I mean, it really was a draw, to be honest with you. It really was a draw, and it's up to your interpretation what really happened. But you know what I'm saying? But the way they filmed it, the way that fight scene ended, really protected both monsters, and I really enjoy it. Even though they say Kong officially won, I'm sure Toho was like, "Yeah, he won. Yeah, Kong won. Godzilla, he won. Whatever." But that's my take on King Kong vs. Godzilla. You know what I mean? And I love the film so much. I really, really do. It should be in my top 10. And you know what? I think it is now. Because of this figure. Because of X Plus finally releasing this gigantic 62. So, yeah. So that's great. That's great. Far as we got more gigantic series figures coming down the line, like I mentioned before. And I think that's a good thing, but also I think it's a bad thing because, we're getting all these releases. If you're familiar with what I'm about to say, then you know what I'm talking about. But next month, they announced they're going to release Kamacuras, a 30cm Mechagodzilla 1975. After that, we got Legion, a giant Legion from Gamera 2. After that, we're going to get the reissue of the GMK Godzilla. And after that, in October, November, we're going to get Gigantic Series 54. I think that's great for getting these figures out to us who want them. But I think it's bad from a business perspective to put all this on us at one time. Because I know this alone was a really good chunk of money that set a lot of people back, and they're not going to be able to afford these other releases coming at such a short time. Now, if they spaced them out like maybe 2 or 3 months at a time, maybe, I can understand that. But to have it all together at one time, you know what I'm saying? And the last time I checked, none of us are millionaires. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure we may have some people who are well off financially, but a lot of y'all are just like me. We're working folks that have other obligations, other responsibilities, either house, car payment, kids, or whatever. And we just don't have the money to keep shelling out $400, $500, every month. And with what they got coming, you know what I'm saying, it leaves buyers to pick and choose what they want versus getting everything that X Plus offer, thus making them more profitable. So I think it's, maybe they should scale back a little bit. You know what I mean? Just give people a chance to raise some money. You know, give them some breathing room, whatever. And, you know, I'm saying, you know what I mean? So that's my take on that. You know what I mean? Of course, I pre-ordered some stuff or whatever, but I'm just worried about as the hobby as a whole. Cause a lot of these folks will not be able to keep up, and it's gonna be to a point where Expo's gonna make a whole bunch of figures where a lot of people are not gonna be really there to buy them because they don't have enough money because of all the other stuff that came before it. So it's good and bad on both sides of the equation, but hopefully we'll get a resolution to that so that, you know, we can, you know, get the things we want without having going into bankruptcy court to accomplish that. But basically, you know what I'm saying, this concludes my review of the X Plus Gigantic Series Godzilla 1962 from the iconic classic film King Kong versus Godzilla. If you have any questions, holler me down in the comment section or hit me up on Facebook, Vermont Callaway. We definitely go from there. Also, one last thing. I got to touch on this. It's for Jeremy Souls. You know, Jeremy Souls, a great friend of mine. He's opening up he's going to be doing a phone application dedicated to like X Plus figures and kaiju collecting and stuff like that. And he's having it's called Summit Kaiju, and he's having a Summit Kaiju creative photo contest. It's going to be held at G Fest, and I'm one of the judges there. Where you have to just submit like your best pick of a diorama, Photoshop or not Photoshop, or of your kaiju collection. Just a great, awesome pick. Send it to, use the hashtag on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, hashtag Summit Kaiju Contest. And you can know about the rules at this website called summitkaiju.com/official rules. That way you can know more about the contest or whatever. But you have to submit your picks by tomorrow, July 10th. Tomorrow, sometime tomorrow. I forgot what time. I'm sorry. I think tomorrow around 5 o'clock Mountain Time or whatever. You have to submit your picks by tomorrow, and the top prize is a Gigantic Series Godzilla 1962 Rick Board figure and some other prizes along the way. But that's the top prize, a Gigantic Series Godzilla 1962, and I think it's worth you going out your way. You know what I'm saying? All you do is take a great pick, and you never know, you can end up with this beautiful gigantic monstrosity right here. You know what I mean? So check it out. Like I said, hashtag Summit Kaiju. Let's see. Hashtag Summit Kaiju Contest, and or go to the website summitkaiju.com/official rules, or go on the Summit Kaiju Facebook page to know more information about what you need to do, where you have to send your pick by tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And you never know. Like I said, you could end up with this big, beautiful guy right here, because he is really worth it. He really is worth it. And I give it a 10 out of 10. They captured this suit perfectly. It's awesome. It's great. And I'm just looking forward to the other Gigantic Series figures we got coming down the line. But for right now, he's the man. He's the king. The KingGoji from King Kong vs. Godzilla. All right. I thank y'all for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on the next figure and move review. All right. Y'all take it easy.